Hello, everyone. Jake Becker here, Pioneer Field Agronomist for the Northern Texas Panhandle. Wanted to do a quick presentation on drought tolerance in corn for you today. So I am a field agronomist up north. I cover the northern two tiers of counties in the Texas Panhandle. Other field agronomists around, we have Mason Winters, based out of Canyon, and Jacob Richburg, based out of Plainview. So drought years are guaranteed, right? We have good years, bad years, years where we get rain, years where we don't get rain. Obviously, this last year was super challenging for you guys south of I-40, really dry down there. If you look at my territory, it was actually pretty decent. We were headed towards disaster, but we ended up getting some rains around July and have actually been picking up some fairly good snowfall here over the winter. But even with the recent snow a few weeks ago down south of I-40, obviously still a big time drought down there. So we're going to talk about some things in Pioneer Research, some tools we can help provide you guys. And at the end, we're going to talk about just some general limited irrigation corn production and also some resources you can use to hopefully improve your corn yields on irrigated corn. So Pioneer Research, what do we do? What do we do to try to provide you, our customer, with the best corn that we can on those acres? Obviously, when you think about corn, Pioneer, and drought, the first thing you think about is Aquamax. So our Aquamax hybrids undergo extensive testing, and we're really looking at those targeted stress environments, whether that's down at Plainview or up in Garden City or over in California where we get virtually zero rain over there. We take these hybrids and we try to break them. We try to push them to their breaking point and see where they fall on that scale. When you think about things like Aquamax, we have bigger root systems, better timed pollen shed and silks, so we can get that crop pollinated. But really, Aquamax is our highest designation in terms of drought. When you look at our rating scale, it goes from 1 to 9, 1 being the worst, 9 being the best. Only hybrids that rate a 9 for drought are rated, have the Aquamax designation on them. One thing we did a few years ago was we moved to 2-year impact testing. So impacts are right in your backyard, right? That's where we plant hundreds of plots within a circle of corn. We go through there, we get the yield on them, we phenotype those plants, we check them out, right? We do that in a local environment. It used to be that we just did that for 1 year. And then we introduced those, we took the products we thought were the best and introduced those as commercial products. Now we do 2 years of impact testing, and that lets us see 2 site years, right? That lets us see 2 years that can be totally different. 1 year with a bunch of rain, 1 year with zero rain. So that means more stable products and better products for you and your farm. We also changed up our drought rating here last year or 2 years ago. So what you're going to notice is maybe you had a hybrid that rated a 7 for drought a couple of years ago. You were looking in that book, hey, this hybrid rates a 7 for drought. Now it rates a 6 for drought, or maybe that hybrid rating didn't change. But what we did was we broadened our drought ratings within our books. So that just gives us more numbers to work with, right? We can say, hey, is this product really drought tolerant, or it's almost an Aquamax, it's an 8. So we've stretched out that scale. One of the biggest things we do is local plots. Just here in the northern 2 counties of the Texas Panhandle, we had over 80 grain plots with corn in 2020. So that lets us as field agronomists, that lets Pioneer sales reps know how these products perform on our customers' fields and how to place them. You know, is this a hybrid that we need to keep on better water, or is this hybrid pretty tough? Those are the questions we're trying to answer there. And plant populations is interesting. Over the past, say, 5 or 6 years, we have a lot more corn products now that have a tremendous amount of ear flex. So when we talk about ear flex, if conditions are good, those ears will be bigger, they'll flex up, right? But if we have those low populations out there and things aren't as good as what they could be, we're not going to burn that crop up because we reduced our populations out there. So when you think about things like bushels per 1,000 plants out there, those are the kind of things that we're looking at with these new products. So plant populations, we have hybrids that flex now, and it's a good thing for you, the producer, because we can plant less seeds out there, get more bushels if it does rain, and if we have a good year, and not have that crop burn up if it does not. And then all of these things, all of these different bullet points, they lead to new hybrids, they lead to better hybrids. It used to be that, 15 years ago, we would have hybrids that could shed pollen and not push out silks yet. We would be off on that syncness of that plant. Hybrids have come a long ways, and we continue to push our yield levels on these water limited sites on these drought years, and that's what we're doing. You think even Aquamax back in the day, P1498, P1151, those hybrids were both Aquamax, and then if you had a chance to look at the new generation of Aquamax, hybrids like P1548, they're worlds different. They're tough. They have bigger yield associated with them. They have more ear flex. They have better heat tolerance. So these are things that we're trying to do. And even hybrids like 1828, 1366, we are making leaps and bounds genetic gains year over year. I want to talk quickly about digital agriculture. So digital agriculture relating to drought, well, there's going to be a couple points I'm going to bring up here. One would be granular insights. So when you think about granular insights, it's a very powerful tool. You can put in yield data, connect it to your John Deere tractor, your John Deere planter combine. But one of the biggest things in granular insights is satellite imagery. So this is about 10-foot resolution, but you can really nail down and see if you have those good areas in the field, bad areas in the field, see if you have those clogged nozzles. And we'll talk about that in the slide later in the presentation, but really to make sure that that irrigation system you have out there is working at peak performance, something like granular insights. If you want to get even more detail on something like that, Pioneer has the largest drone fleet in all of agriculture. So we can go out and your field agronomist or your sales rep could fly a 125-acre circle in 15 minutes and get sub-inch accuracy. You could go down and look at an individual plant if you wanted to, but if you're seeing something that's a little off on granular insights, we can go out there and fly that drone and really nail down and try to see kind of the bigger picture, more granular picture, if you will, on what's going on in that circle. So we can look at crop health on that. And we can also do stand counts with a drone. And that can be pretty important early on in the growing season when we're trying to make a replant decision. Let's say we planted 28,000 seed to the acre and we had some super cold conditions. We had a big rain on top of it. It was just hard for that corn to come up. Well, we can go out there and take, 40, 50 stand counts across that circle and see the good areas, see the bad areas, and try to make that replant decision. And let's say out of that 28,000 that we planted, we came up with, we have some areas that were down to 24, some areas that didn't lose that much stand, but on average, we had 26.5 out there. And we had a pretty big flexing hybrid. Let's say we had P1828 out there. And P1828, it flexes big, so we decided not to replant that circle. So it's very cool technology. And we're getting into predictive ag. Think about evapotranspiration, yield estimation, solar radiation, all these things feeding into models and trying to estimate that yield. And drought and the water, rainfall are a huge piece of that. If you haven't done so already, I would encourage you to download the Pioneer Seeds app off of Android or Apple, the App Store. Some really great information in there. You can get products where they're placed on your farm. You can estimate yield by taking pictures of ears. There's also a new feature called Thread ID where you can see, take a picture of a corn leaf and see what disease that may be. Talk to your sales rep, talk to your field agronomist and see where that is. But when you get drought conditions, all sorts of things can come in, can move in, and that Pioneer Seeds app can be your friend. So switching gears here, we're going to just touch on a couple points on limited irrigated corn production. So heat and drought tolerance. Heat and drought tolerance are two different things. They're related, and you can have one without the other, or you can have both of them together. Obviously, here in the Texas Panhandle, we get both of these things together quite often. But there are hybrids out there, hybrids that everybody sells that have good drought tolerance and poor heat tolerance, or awesome heat tolerance and poor drought tolerance. So when you think about heat tolerance, think about that sun, think about that intensity of that sun, hybrid that can flash on a really hot day and get those white leaves on it. And then drought is just simply the lack of water. You know, you could go without water for a very long time and not get that sunlight, not get that super warm conditions, but it's obviously still stressing that plant. We don't have a rating, quote unquote, for heat tolerance in our hybrids, but talk to your local Pioneer sales rep or field agronomist, and we've definitely got some insights into items like that. Know your gallons per minute per acre. If you're an irrigated corn farmer, this is probably the most important thing you can know to talk when you're booking seed, when you're trying to place the right hybrids on the right fields. This is it. If you know your gallons per minute per acre, we're doing good. So if you look at that chart over there, this is just for a 125 acre circle. If you have a 500 gallon a minute well, or those wells you have around are feeding 500 gallon a minute, that's going to be 4 GPM per acre. That's the important number that we need to know about. And that's going to let us, you know, see that you could put on just over 2/10 of water a day, right? And we can extrapolate that out for the growing season, obviously. And if we look at this effective moisture stress on corn, this data is, I mean, it is what it is, right? It shows 4 consecutive days of visible wilting. So some pretty good stress on this corn crop. But obviously when we start shooting out tassels, when we start shooting out silks, when that plant is switching from vegetative growth to reproductive growth, that is where we can get the biggest hits in yield. So just think about these couple pieces. This is an evapotranspiration graph. So this is water that the atmosphere is going to take, water that the crop is going to use. This is the total amount of moisture we need to raise a corn crop. There's 3 lines on here. That blue line is 2011. That is, without a doubt, a very rough year in the Texas Panhandle. The green line is 2019, and the red year is the average. And you can see that red, it doesn't have those peaks and valleys because it's the average, it's just averaged out. But if you just look at that red line, the average, you can see that takes 6 gallons per minute per acre to fully irrigate that corn crop. There's not a lot of people who have 6 gallon a minute an acre left. And if they do, it can be very difficult to manage to not overwater that crop and reduce yield. But there's a lot of guys down there in that 3 and 4 gallons per minute per acre. So we are under that crop's water requirement. We are deficit irrigating for 90+% of the year, and that can be very difficult. We have to get everything right to get the maximum amount of return on that irrigation investment. So it doesn't matter if you have 6 gallon a minute or 3 gallon a minute, just some basic irrigation management things. So that picture is a crop health image of a cornfield that was in late August or early September. You can see all the bullseyes around it, all the targets, all the red areas. The green areas are good, the dark green areas are great, the red areas are dead corn, right? So you can see all the bullseyes. So those were clogged nozzles. So we made some really good corn on the circle. There was 280+ bushel corn on this circle, and there was some zeros on the circle. And those zeros brought down this field average a ton. But when you go out there, you put nozzles on that pivot, they are set for a certain end pressure. They're set for a certain pressure at the pivot. Make sure that your nozzles are correct for the package that it was designed for. Make sure that you have that water going into that pivot that you think you do, you know. Just make sure that that sprinkler is working the most efficient and the best that it can. If you have regulators on there, you have a half-mile system, or you have some different terrain, If you haven't changed those things out in the last 5 or 7 years, they're probably hurting you more than they're helping you. There's springs in there, there's wear parts. Just make sure if you have regulators on there, if you need regulators, to get them right. It's tough to depend on rainfall here in the Texas Panhandle, without a doubt. So rainfall can actually mask a lot of these problems, right? It's in these dry years where we see these bullseyes or, streaks in the field. And last year, 2020, was a good year to see the problem areas in those pivots. So let's try to get those fixed. So even on the years when we do get rain, they're still not hurting us. Just a couple of resources out there for you guys. So every year we get together with the Texas Panhandle team and we do a product positioning book. So we have hard copies of this. We have digital versions. And we also did irrigation practices in the high plains with Mr. Russell French. I think it's like 3 pages long, but it's just got some good overview information, just some things to brush up on and look at. And we've got this in the digital version in print as well. If these things interest you, talk to your local Pioneer sales rep, local field agronomist. But I do appreciate you watching this today. Feel free to shoot me a call if you have any questions, and have a great day.